Sebald Beham was a German painter and printmaker, especially noted for his engravings. Born in Nuremberg, he spent the later part of his career in Frankfurt. He was one of the most important of the Little Masters, the group of German artists making prints in the generation after Dürer. His name is often given as Hans Sebald Beham, although there is no documentary evidence that he ever used this additional forename. Life. Beham was born in Nuremberg. Nothing is known of his parents. His brother Bertel Beham, 2 years his junior, was also an artist. His training is undocumented. In 1521 he is recorded as a Malergeselle, and by 1525 he was master of his own workshop in Nuremberg. In January 1525, along with his brother and Georg Penz, he was banished from Nuremberg, accused of heresy, blasphemy and not recognizing the authority of the city council. The three thus became known as godless painters. The accusations against Beham were connected with his Lutheran beliefs. The city authorities then being Catholic, although they adopted Lutheranism as the city's official religion only 2 months later. The three artists were soon allowed to return to Nuremberg, but in 1528 Beham hurriedly left the city once more, following the threat of legal action over his treatise on the proportions of the horse, which was regarded as having been plagiarized from an unpublished manuscript by Albrecht Dürer, who had recently died. He then spent time working in various German cities. His woodcuts were published at Ingolstadt between 1527 and 1530, and in the latter year he was in Munich, where he recorded the triumphal entry of Emperor Charles V in a woodcut entitled The Military Display, the 10th of June 1530. He lived mostly in Frankfurt from 1532, becoming a citizen there in 1540, and remaining until his death 10 years later. Until about 1532, his prints were monogrammed HSP, reflecting the Nuremberg pronunciation of his surname, Beham, after this date, by which time he had established himself in Frankfurt. His monogram became HSB. This monogram has often led to his name being given as Hans Sebald Beham, but there is no documentary evidence for this additional forename, the H in the monogram probably representing the second syllable of his surname. He is known to have married twice. A pair of models for medals, designed by Matthias Gebel and dating from 1540, shows Beham and his wife Anna. In 1549, by then a widower, Beham married Elisabeth Wolff, the daughter of a shoemaker from Buddingen. He is not to be confused with his contemporary Hans Beham, also of Nuremberg, who cast the Sigismund Bell at the Warel Castle in Poland for the Sigismund I the Old work. Paintings. He is known to have designed stained glass in Nuremberg. His only known panel painting, however, is a tabletop painted with scenes from the life of King David, now in the Louvre. This was done following his move to Frankfurt, the Cardinal Albrecht of Brandenburg. He also painted miniatures for a prayer book for Albrecht, now in the collection of the Hofbibliothek Aschaffenburg. Some coats of arms, painted on vellum for newly ennobled patrons, survive in the city archives in Frankfurt. Prince Beham is best known as a prolific printmaker. He produced approximately 252 engravings, 18 etchings and 1,500 woodcuts, including woodcut book illustrations. He worked extensively on tiny, highly detailed engravings, many as small as postage stamps, placing him in the German printmaking school known as the Little Masters, from the size of the prints. These works he printed and published himself, while his much larger woodcuts were mostly commissioned work. The engravings found a ready market among German bourgeois collectors. He also made prints for use as playing cards and wallpaper. His engravings cover a range of subjects, but he is especially known for scenes of peasant life, and scenes from classical mythohistory. both often with an erotic element. His early work was done under the shadow of Dürer, who was still working in Nuremberg, and one early woodcut head of Christ, to which the AD monogram was added in the second state, was long misattributed to Dürer by Adam Bartsch and others. He also borrowed from his brother Barthel's rather more original works. In his later work he boldly reinterpreted many of Dürer's most famous prints in works such as his Melancholia of 1539, exploiting the difference in scale between his work and the original. Artist's Manuals, the book on the proportions of the horse, for which he was briefly exiled in 1528 following accusations of plagiarism, was an artist's manual, which he later followed with one on the human figure. These publications were simplified borrowings of Dürer's works on the subjects, but rather easier to use, and thus had a long-lasting success. Gallery.